It says here that a bolt of lightning is going to strike the clock tower precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night. If we could somehow harness this lightning, channel it into the flux capacitor, it just might work. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Back to the Future is a 1985 science fiction adventure film directed by Robert Zemeckis and written by Bob Gale that would find massive acclaim and box office success. It would go on to be regarded as one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. On October 21st, 1985, 17-year-old high school teenager Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, spends time playing guitar and hanging out with his girlfriend Jennifer Parker, played by Claudia Wells.
Does your mom know about tomorrow night?
No, get out of town. My mom thinks I'm going camping with the guys. Well, Jennifer, my mother would freak out if she knew I was going up there with you, and I get the standard lecture about how she never did that kind of stuff when she was a kid. I mean, look, I think the woman was born a nun.
She's just trying to keep you respectable.
Well, she's not doing a very good job.
Terrible.
Save the clock tower! Save the clock tower! Mayor Wilson is sponsoring an initiative to replace that clock. 30 years ago, lightning struck that clock tower, and the clock hasn't run since. We at the Hill Valley Preservation Society think it should be preserved exactly the way it is, as part of our history and heritage.
There you go, lady. There's a quarter.
Thank you. Don't forget to take a flyer.
Right.
Save the clock tower!
His home life is somewhat depressing, with an alcoholic mother, Lorraine, played by Lea Thompson, and an obedient father, George, played by Crispin Glover. His father is often pushed around by his supervisor, Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson.
Hey, I have your car towed all the way to your house, and all you got for me is light beer? What are you looking at, butthead? Say hi to your mom for me.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right. But, Biff just happens to be my supervisor, and I'm afraid I'm just not very good at confrontations.
That night, Marty meets up with his eccentric scientist friend, Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. Doc unveils a time machine built from a modified DeLorean vehicle.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Emmett Brown. I'm standing on the parking lot at Twin Pines Mall. It's Saturday morning, October 26, 1985, 1:18 a.m., and this is temporal experiment number 1.
The time machine is powered by plutonium, which he swindled from Libyan terrorists.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Hey, keep rolling there. No, this sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity I need.
Doc, you don't just walk into a store and buy plutonium. Did you rip that off?
Of course, from a group of Libyan nationalists. They wanted me to build them a bomb, so I took their plutonium and in turn gave them a shiny bomb casing full of used pinball machine parts.
Doc shows Marty how the time machine works.
This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, this one tells you where you were. You input your destination time on this keypad. Say you want to see the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Or witness the birth of Christ. Here's the red letter date in the history of science, November 5th, 1955. Yes, of course, November 5th, 1955.
Why? I don't get what happened.
That was the day I invented time travel.
Suddenly, the Islamic extremists show up, shooting and killing Doc. Marty flees in the DeLorean, accelerating to 88 miles per hour, inadvertently traveling back to November 5th, 1955.
Holy shit! Let's see if you bastards can do 90.
Arriving in 1955, Marty realizes that he has no plutonium and hides the car. He then explores Hill Valley in the glory of the middle of the 1950s.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make her complexion like peaches and cream. Give her two lips like roses and clover.
He heads into a local diner and runs into both Biff and his father, George.
Hey, McFly! What do you think you're doing?
Biff.
Hey, I'm talking to you, McFly, you Irish bug.
Oh, hey, Biff. Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, you got my homework finished, McFly?
Well, actually, I figured since it wasn't due till Monday.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think, McFly, think.
Following his dad down the street, Marty spots him spying on Lorraine changing clothes.
He's a peeping Tom.
George falls into the path of an oncoming car, and Marty instinctively pushes him out of the way.
Dad!
Marty awakens in his mother's bedroom, where his 17-year-old mother has a sudden infatuation with him.
You're my mom.
My name is Lorraine. Lorraine Baines?
Yeah. But you're so thin.
Just relax, Calvin. You got a big bruise on your head.
Where are my pants?
Over there? On my hope chest? I've never seen purple underwear before, Calvin.
Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
Well, that is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Heading downstairs, he meets his grandparents, aunts and uncles, all the while trying to find out the location of Doc. Lorraine has a serious attraction to Marty.
I think maybe you should spend the night. I think you're our responsibility.
Well, gee, I don't know.
And he can sleep in my room.
I gotta go. I gotta go. Thanks very much. It was wonderful. You were all great. See you all later. Much later.
Marty finds Doc and tries his best to convince him that he is from the future. Doc is skeptical.
Oh, truth, Doc, you gotta believe me.
Then tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? The actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
Eventually, he is convinced, but explains that the only source of power strong enough to send Marty back to 1985 would come from a lightning strike. Marty realizes that the local courthouse will be struck by lightning at an approximate time the following week. As Marty's brother and sister begin to fade from a photograph in his wallet, Doc realizes that Marty's intervention in his father being struck by the car has altered the future and jeopardized Marty's existence.
Very funny. You guys are being real mature.
What did your mother ever see in that kid?
I don't know, Doc. I don't know. I guess she felt sorry for him because her dad hit him with the car. Hit me with the car.
Marty encourages George to try and ask Lorraine out on a date, but Biff continually gets in the way.
What? You want it. You know you want it. You know you want me to give it to you.
Shut your filthy mouth. I'm not that kind of girl.
Oh, well, maybe you are and you just don't know it yet.
Get your meat hooks off of me.
You heard her. She said, get your meat hooks off.
So what's it to you, butthead? You know, you've been looking for a... Since you're new here, I'm gonna cut you a break. So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
Anytime Marty tries to stand up to Biff, he only makes Lorraine desire him more.
George McFly? Oh, he's kind of cute and all, but not... Well, I think a man should be strong so he can stand up for himself and protect the woman he loves.
Can Marty get his parents together and get back to 1985? before he is erased from existence? The inspiration for this film largely stems from film writer Bob Gale discovering his father's high school yearbook and wondering whether he would have been friends with his father as a teenager. When Robert Zemeckis was trying to sell the idea of this film, one of the main companies he approached was Disney, who turned it down because they thought that the premise of a mother falling in love with her son was too risque for a film under their banner. In fact, Disney was the only company to consider the movie too risque. All the other companies said that the movie wasn't risque enough compared to other teen comedies at the time, like R-rated Porky's, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Revenge of the Nerds. The script was rejected 44 times before it was finally greenlit. In addition, studios were wary of Robert Zemeckis' work, as some of the films he had directed were flops. The unexpected success of the 1984 romantic comedy adventure film Romancing the Stone, which was directed by Zemeckis, boosted his profile, resulting in studios taking a second look at this movie. Without Romancing the Stone, there would have been no Back to the Future. Sid Sheinberg, the head of Universal Pictures, requested many changes to be made throughout the movie. Most of these he got, such as having Professor Brown changed to Doc Brown, and his chimp Shemp changed to a dog named Einstein. Marty's mother's name was first written as Meg, and then as Eileen, but Sid Sheinberg insisted that she be named Lorraine after his wife, Lorraine Gary. The movie was almost titled Spaceman from Pluto. In the first draft of the screenplay, written in 1980-1981, the time machine was a laser device that was housed in a room. At the end of the first draft, the device was attached to a refrigerator and was taken to an atomic bomb test site. Robert Zemeckis said in an interview that the idea was scrapped because he and Steven Spielberg didn't want children to start climbing into refrigerators and getting trapped inside. In the third draft of the film, the time machine was a DeLorean, but in order to send Marty back to the future, the vehicle had to drive the DeLorean into an atomic bomb test site. Eventually, the Nevada Desert Bomb Test was dropped in order to reduce the budget. The DeLorean was deliberately selected for its general appearance and gull-wing doors in order to make it plausible that people in 1955 would presume it to be an alien spacecraft. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis actually received a fan letter from John DeLorean after the film's release, thanking them for immortalizing his car. Though the film Marty won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1955, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale stated that they were not aware of this fact when they named their main character Marty. Both movies also have a diner owner named Lou. Michael J. Fox had always been the first choice for the role of Marty, but he was unavailable due to scheduling conflicts with work on the hit NBC sitcom Family Ties. Co-star Meredith Baxter was pregnant at the time, and Michael J. Fox was carrying a lot more of the show than usual. The show's producer, Gary David Goldberg, simply couldn't afford to let Michael J. Fox have the time off. Steven Spielberg, who was producing the movie, gave Goldberg the script, but Goldberg did not give it to Michael J. Fox. C. Thomas Howell was then cast for 2 weeks as Marty McFly, even rehearsing with Crispin Glover and Lea Thompson. After the 1985 film Mask became a surprise hit, the filmmakers decided to recast the role with actor Eric Stoltz and replaced Howell. Principal photography began November 26, 1984, on a 14-week schedule set to conclude on February 28, 1985, with an estimated $14 million budget. Filming took place mainly at the Universal Studios lot and on location in California. After 4 weeks of filming, which added up to about 40 minutes of footage, the filmmakers noticed that they were just not getting what they wanted out of Eric Stoltz. Zemeckis, Gale, Spielberg, they thought we're just not getting the laughs that we should be getting with this role. Bob Gale said that Eric Stoltz was a good actor in the wrong role. Eric Stoltz agreed. Despite having filmed for 5 weeks, the filmmakers were allowed to fire and replace the lead actor. Stoltz was still paid his full salary. According to various cast and crew members, Eric Stoltz was taking the role way too seriously, playing it as if he were in a drama, and insisting that everyone call him Marty on set when the cameras weren't rolling. According to Tom Wilson, who played Biff, most of the crew cheered when Eric Stoltz was fired because they were so fed up with his behavior. By this point, Meredith Baxter was fully back on Family Ties, and Goldberg agreed to let Michael J. Fox read the script and go off and make the movie, with the agreement that Family Ties would always come first. Fox worked out a schedule to fulfill his commitment to both projects. Michael J. Fox's first day on set was January 15, 1985. Every day during production, he was driven straight to the movie set after taping Family Ties and averaged about 5 hours of sleep a day. Reshooting Eric Stoltz scenes added $3 million to the budget. After Michael J. Fox arrived on set, Robert Zemeckis said that not only did Fox fit the character and movie better, but everyone else's performances around him improved as well. Filming concluded after 107 days on April 26, 1985. Michael J. Fox was 23 years old at the time, playing the 17-year-old Marty McFly. Michael J. Fox was only 10 days younger than Lea Thompson, who plays his mother, and almost 3 years older than his on-screen father, Crispin Glover. John Lithgow was the studio's first choice for the role of Dr. Emmett Brown, but he turned it down due to a scheduling conflict. Christopher Lloyd had been a close second choice, and Dudley Moore, Gene Wilder, Dick Van Dyke, Jeffrey Tambor, Michael Gross, and Jeff Goldblum were all considered for the role. Christopher Lloyd based his performance as Doc Brown on a combination of physicist Albert Einstein and conductor Leopold Stokowski. Brown's pronunciation of gigawatts as gigawatts was based on the way a physicist with whom Zemeckis and Gale met for research had said the word. Christopher Lloyd was 17 years old in 1955, the same age as Lorraine and George in the film. Lea Thompson was cast as Lorraine McFly because she had acted opposite Eric Stoltz, the original actor cast as Marty, in the 1984 film The Wildlife. The filmmakers were watching that movie to see Eric Stoltz act and said, "Whoa, who is she? Maybe we should get her for the role in Back to the Future." In a 2018 interview, Lea Thompson said that when she was a young actress starting out in Hollywood, a very famous woman agent assessed her options for her. She told her, "Here's your career, Lea. Virgins, horrors, and mothers." Lea Thompson said Back to the Future was such a great part because she got to play a virgin, a horror, and a mother all in one movie. To represent characters across 3 decades, the filmmakers did not want to have older actors stand in, believing the change would be obvious and distracting. Special effects artist Ken Chase performed makeup tests on the young actors to age them. The initial results were discouraging. It took 3 hours in makeup to turn the 23-year-old Lea Thompson into the 47-year-old Lorraine. Tim Robbins was considered for the role of Biff Tannen. Actor Billy Zane makes his first on-screen appearance in this film as Match, one of Biff's cronies. While Marty and Jennifer are American high school students, neither Michael J. Fox or Claudia Wells were actually born in the United States. Fox was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and Claudia Wells was born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, moving to San Francisco, California at a few weeks of age. The day the film wrapped to the day it was released was a mere 9.5 weeks, an unprecedented short lead time for such a major movie release. Back to the Future was released into United States movie theaters on July 3, 1985. It was a huge success. The film spent 11 out of 12 weeks at number 1 at the United States box office from July through September of 1985. Only one other movie, National Lampoon's European Vacation, briefly knocked it out of the number 1 spot. The film remained in the top 10 as late as January 1986 and remained in movie theaters until March of 1986. By the end of its theatrical run, Back to the Future earned a worldwide box office gross of over $381.1 million. It was far and away the highest grossing film of 1985 in the United States of America. Back to the Future was released on VHS tape on May 22, 1986, priced at $79.95, becoming the first film to sell 450,000 units at that price point, and was also the most rented videocassette of the year. Steven Spielberg initially had some reservations about hiring composer Alan Silvestri, having been unimpressed by his score for Romancing the Stone. During a preview screening in which the film was accompanied by a temporary track that only used part of Silvestri's score, Spielberg commented to Robert Zemeckis that that sort of grand cue was the sort of music the movie needed, unaware that he was listening to one of Silvestri's cues. Alan Silvestri's orchestra for the score of the film was the largest ever assembled at that time, consisting of 85 musicians. The December 5th, 1981 episode Fast Money of the NBC television series Chips contains an early version of the Back to the Future score.
Okay. Now give me the bag!
When Marty scares George into following his plan, he plays a cassette tape labeled Edward Van Halen, because Edward Van Halen agreed to perform a few licks on his own after the rest of the band refused to allow their music to be used in the film. Musician Paul Hansen taught Michael J. Fox how to use a guitar to play Johnny Be Good, and choreographer Brad Jeffries spent 4 weeks teaching Fox to replicate various rock star moves popularized by artists such as Pete Townsend, Jimi Hendrix, and Chuck Berry.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Fun, it's like it's a burger.
Chuck Berry withheld permission to use Johnny Be Good until the day before filming began, receiving $50,000 for the rights. When Marty is playing Johnny Be Good and Marvin calls his cousin Chuck Berry on the phone to tell him about the new sound he's looking for, this was all taking place on November 12, 1955. On that actual date, Chuck Berry was named Most Promising New Rhythm and Blues Artist by Billboard. Marty McFly famously played a Gibson ES-345, even though that model didn't exist until 1958. The filmmakers intentionally used a guitar from the future to create a sense of time-traveling chaos in the 1950s scene. Mark Campbell was a well-known vocal stylist working in Hollywood around the time of filming. Mark dubbed Michael J. Fox's voice in the Johnny Be Good number. Coincidentally, Mark Campbell got his first and only gold record when he released the Chuck Berry cover as a single that year. Huey Lewis was asked by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale to write a song for the film. They weren't thrilled with the first song he brought back to them, and after explaining what they were hoping for, Huey came back with The Power of Love. He was then told they needed one more song, and so upon viewing a cut of the film, Huey got the inspiration for Back in Time. Huey Lewis appears in the film uncredited when Marty is being judged at the band auditions at the beginning, as the judge who stands up to say he is just too darn loud. Although Universal studio executives loved Huey Lewis's song The Power of Love, they were disappointed that it didn't mention the movie's title, so they sent memos out to radio stations reminding disc jockeys to mention the song's association with the film. Back in Time would reach number 3 on the US rock charts, while The Power of Love hit number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 in August 1985. President Ronald Reagan watched the film for the first time at Camp David on Friday, July 26, 1985, 3 weeks after its release. Ronald Reagan was amused by Doc Brown's comment that an actor would have to be president in the future because of television, so much so that he had the projectionist stop and replay the scene.
A portable television studio. No wonder your president has to be an actor. He's got to look good on television.
He also seemed to enjoy it so much that he even made a direct reference of the film in his 1986 State of the Union address.
I want to speak directly to America's younger generation. Never has there been a more exciting time to be alive. As they said in the film, Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Ronald Reagan named the NBC television series Family Ties, which Michael J. Fox was shooting concurrently with this movie, as his favorite television show of the 1980s. The scene where Doc Brown can't believe that Ronald Reagan would be president of the United States in 1985 was among one of the first scenes filmed after the 1984 U.S. presidential election. The scene would not have been filmed had former Vice President Walter Mondale won the election. Since Ronald Reagan got re-elected and would still be president in the year 1985, the scene was filmed. There were some deleted scenes and bloopers, many which would wind up appearing on the film's DVD releases.
Hey, puto! There she is, man. There's a bitch. Shit, man. Son of a bitch, she cheating, man. Hey!
Hey, bitch! No homeboy for her tonight, man. Bitch.
The rights to the film and its sequels are owned by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. In a 2015 interview, Robert Zemeckis maintained that no reboot or remake of the film would be authorized during he or Gale's lifetime. In December 2007, this film was selected by the United States Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant to American history. I remember the first time I saw this movie was on TV in late 1994. I was in kindergarten. I was about 6 years old. At the time I saw this movie, 1985 was just under a decade earlier. I absolutely loved this movie, and is a movie I can watch over and over again and never get tired of. The fact that it came out on July 3rd, which is basically almost the exact middle of the year, in 1985, means that when it comes to pop culture, Back to the Future was released in almost the exact middle of the decade of the 1980s. July 3rd, 1985. That's almost the exact middle of the entire decade of the 1980s. This is a magnificent film. The comedy is great. The story is wonderful. The actors, Michael J. Fox, wonderful. Lea Thompson, great and very attractive. Crispin Glover, very awkward and just right for that role. Christopher Lloyd, fantastic. The special effects are tremendous and very convincing. I highly recommend the 1985 classic movie, Back to the Future.